Tonight, it has been more than 40 years since someone walked into the shop of a violin maker in Israel and handed over a violin with a story. It was the first of many such stringed instruments that had belonged to European Jews before and during the Holocaust.
Some of the people who owned or played those instruments survived the Holocaust, but many more were killed by the Nazis. Dozens of those instruments are now part of a program called Violins of Hope. They are owned by Avshi Weinstein and his father, who are both violin makers. Avshi Weinstein is now in Maine for 2 Violins of Hope concerts. And he told us the story of how this program began with that first instrument that came into his father's shop back in the 1970s.
My father got this violin for repair. When he opened it, there was ashes inside, black powder.
The ashes drifted through the air from a concentration camp. They were all that remained of prisoners who had been killed and cremated.
There was lots of ashes, lots of smoke all around. Some of it went into the violin, because if you look on an instrument, a violin, viola, cello, double bass, when you use it after a while, there is always dust inside.
Avshi's father, a skilled violin maker, repaired that instrument that had been brought to him. The word went out, and soon people were sending him other violins, violas, and cellos, all of which had belonged to survivors or victims of the Holocaust. Decades later, instruments are still arriving.
The last one my father got last week, another violin. We have today about probably 100.
For Avshi Weinstein and his father, restoring these violins is personal. Nearly all of their family perished in the Holocaust.
My grandfather had 11 brothers and sisters. Only one of his brothers survived. My grandmother had 7 or 8 brothers and sisters. None of her family survived.
You work on violins all the time. That's how you make your living. How is it different for you when you work on a violin that was owned by someone who played it during the Holocaust, who maybe did not survive the Holocaust? What kind of a connection, an emotional connection, is there for you?
The emotional connection is there because it's a part of my legacy, my history. The work itself is almost the same. But it's very powerful when you touch an instrument like that. I mean, we don't have that many things coming from the camps.
Jews played these violins in concentration camps, in urban ghettos, in hiding places in the woods.
What kind of shape are these violins usually in?
It really depends. Some of the instruments, we got them in a nylon bag, like a puzzle, that you have to put back together. Some of them are a little bit better shape. These are very simple instruments because the Nazis knew what good art is. So the good stuff was confiscated, but this is what we have, and this is what those people had, and this is what they played.
The idea has not been to preserve these violins in a museum or in a library where they're never heard, they're never seen. The idea is that these violins should, from time to time, be played. How has that worked? What kind of a difference has that made in telling the story?
You can come and you can look, for example, on this violin. And it's one thing when you see it here, like that, or in a beautiful box with a fantastic lighting. And it's very different when you hear it on the stage.
The violin is a part of you. It's living, it's breathing.
Concerts have been held around the world where symphony orchestras perform with 20 or 30 musicians on stage playing the Violins of Hope.
When you travel around, as you do a great deal, and tell people the story of the violins, show people the violins, what kind of reactions do they have?
Lots of emotions sometimes. I mean, a violinist that has to play on a violin like that, I mean, it's not easy. It's one thing you take an old instrument, which is not yours, and you have to play it. Okay, so it's a bit different here, a bit different there, yes. But then on top of that comes the story. And some of them, let's say, they have happy ending because the person survived. Some don't. It's very emotional.
The Portland Symphony Orchestra is presenting concerts on Sunday and Tuesday where its string players will play the Violins of Hope.
You can find more information about those upcoming Violins of Hope concerts in the 207 section of our website.
And we'll be